Welcome back to the Britt Mayer Show. Today looks a little bit different. It feels different. Uh, like many of you, I am processing the events over the last 24 hours as of the recording here. I'm recording this on September 11th, and I'm processing still everything that happened yesterday. On Wednesday, September 10th, America lost a voice that defined a generation. I keep wanting it to be untrue. I wanted it to be untrue when I first saw the early reports and the videos, which I hope none of you saw. I initially thought it must have been AI, and I really leaned into that thinking it can't be true. It must be AI. This can't be real. Charlie Kirk was assassinated on a college campus in Utah on September 10th. And we are left to figure out how we go forward now. So I wanted to come to you now to offer clarity in the chaos, which is really what I have always aimed to do and what I have felt my mission is in the work that I do is to cut through the overwhelming noise in everything culturally that we walk through and to bring clarity to it all and to ground us in truth and hope at the end of it. So this morning, the reality of yesterday is undeniable. Charlie Kirk is no longer with us. His two beautiful children lost their father. His beautiful wife, Erica, lost her love story and her precious husband. I'm not going to share any of the graphic details. They're out there if you really need to see them. But I want to focus on what happened, who Charlie was, and why this is a watershed moment for America. Yesterday at approximately 12:20 p.m. Mountain Time, Charlie Kirk was speaking at Utah Valley University as part of Turning Point USA's American Comeback Tour. This was a very typical Charlie Kirk event. He came out with his hats that he was tossing into the audience. He was smiling. He was already beginning to engage with the crowd. He was wearing a little white t-shirt and just typical Charlie. He walked to the prove me wrong table that had become Charlie Kirk, where he would consistently invite the opposition, people who didn't agree with him, people who wanted to question him, to wrestle through uncomfortable thoughts and ideas very publicly and very civilly. And that was the cornerstone of what made Charlie Kirk so great, is that he wanted free speech. He felt that without free speech, you don't have a country. And so he worked overtime to create places and spaces where free speech could be upheld and honored in some of the most hostile and aggressive environments on university campuses. And he consistently did this with grace and a welcoming to anyone who disagreed. So it was this typical Charlie Kirk event where everything changed. There were about 3,000 students and community members crowded around the videos. It looks like a massive crowd of youth, a few, my age and older, but definitely a huge amount of youth were in attendance yesterday. And Charlie was in his element. He was smiling, he was engaging, he was doing what he always does, which is tackling questions, everything from religion to those hard topics in politics and culture flashpoints that we aren't supposed to talk about, that we've been conditioned not to talk about. Charlie was going head first. And he actually started the event with just saying how excited he was to be in Utah and said something along the lines of, throw me your best Utah libs. I'm excited for this. He was asked a question. An audience member asked him about mass shootings in America, specifically about transgender individuals involved in such acts over the past decade. And his response was really brief. He said too many. And when pressed further, he started to reply, counting or not counting gang violence, and then a shot rang out and everything changed. The reports as of now are that the shot was fired from an estimated 200 yards away, allegedly from a rooftop of a nearby building at the college. It struck Charlie in the neck. Chaos erupted. There were screams. The crowd started running. Uh, Initially, the people in the crowd fell to the ground, and then there was more screaming, and then people fleeing the scene. Charlie's team that was there rushed toward him, and they rushed him off the stage. There was a period from that point to when we heard the news that we didn't wanna hear, where we thought maybe he was gonna make it. I was watching the live broadcast with Glenn Beck and Megyn Kelly, and was just hoping against hope that it was all gonna be okay, and that somehow it was wrong, and that maybe the video was AI, and the reports that I was seeing come in were wrong. I was with my kids, and my kids love Charlie Kirk, as so many youth in America do. And we just got on our hands and knees, and we laid down and prayed for mercy and for a miracle for Charlie, for his wife, for his family. We prayed for whoever caused this to be caught and brought to swift justice. And we just prayed for a miracle. And that miracle that we really wanted didn't come. Charlie was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the local hospital. This is a watershed moment for America. I believe with all my heart that this will be a moment that will go down like the JFK assassination, like the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination. There are moments in American history that define us and change us and set us on a different course. And I firmly believe that this event that we are living through is one of those. I don't think that the assassination of Charlie Kirk can be overstated in terms of its far, far reaching impacts into the future of American history. So, for those of you who may not know who Charlie Kirk was, he was more than just a conservative commentator. A few of you have asked if I ever had any interaction with Charlie, and I did. I was very fortunate to have spoken with him just a few years ago. We were both asked to host a conference, and um, he was wonderful. He was on fire. It was a women's conference, and he was speaking to us as moms and just encouraging us to be strong and to really pour into our kids. I remember him talking about keeping the Sabbath holy and how that was something that was so important to him. At the time, he didn't have any kids. His beautiful wife, Erica, was pregnant with their first, and he was telling us how important it was to him as a husband to set aside a sacred day every week where no one could interrupt him. None of the outside world, none of Turning Point, none of his associates, none of the big wigs in the industry could reach out to him because that day was holy, and how that became such an anchor for him and for his wife. He was a man of virtue. Shortly after that, he and I were talking about an event that had happened, and I had some additional details that to shape the story that were private. It was a public event, but I just wanted to add in some details that really added context to the event, and I was nervous to share them with him because he had already posted about the story and it was going viral, and I felt like the additional information just gave a really an important clarity and context to the event, and he handled it with so much grace and, was so thankful for me sharing the facts that I brought to the table, and I didn't know what he was gonna do with them. A lot of people, as you get deeper and deeper into the world of politics and commentary and journalism, you find that a lot of people really just want the glory, the viral moment, the story that everyone else wants to chase, and they wanna be the first ones there, and they wanna make it big. Charlie Charlie wasn't cut from that cloth, and, when I shared the information with him, he he quickly corrected the story, and he didn't have to do that. No one would have known, and I was so changed in that moment just for myself as an independent journalist, researcher, a commentator, to remember to always let truth lead, and just to see that played out in such a humble, honest way that he truly sought truth and honesty. He wasn't after the viral chase. He wanted truth to reign. And that's what set Charlie Kirk apart. He was a rock star. He was a generational icon. He shaped the youth in a profound way that will have impacts beyond what you and I could possibly imagine. There is no one like Charlie Kirk. He was a force to be reckoned with, but he was so humble and gentle and even keeled, even in the face of deranged insanity. He was so temperate and so stable. It's a lost art what Charlie had. He was the founder of Turning Point USA, a movement that reshaped college campuses by encouraging students to think critically, to challenge the status quo, and to embrace free speech. Charlie believed that free speech was the absolute cornerstone of an open society and an honest society. And he once said that free speech fosters understanding, but when it is shut down, it signals the decline of open society. And he welcomed debate on every single topic: religion, taxes, politics, culture, all the things that we aren't supposed to talk about and have been overtly censored for. He went headfirst into the deep end, but he did it with so much grace, no matter how uncomfortable it made us feel. And his mission was to create space for civil discourse in a world that is so increasingly afraid of words. His passion was more words, more civil conversation, more dialogue. And he was more than a debater and a master orator. He was a devout Christian. And he saw his faith as the absolute foundation of Western civilization. I've spoken with so many pastors on this who were changed by Charlie Kirk, who learned from him, who were challenged by him. And these are pastors who were 2 times his age, and yet they learned from Charlie Kirk how to be bold at their pulpits. Charlie held boldly to the integration of Jesus and public life. He rejected the notion of separation of church and state. He believed that Christianity built our country. And so his challenge was constantly to pastors to be braver and to reject lukewarm faith and to preach truth fearlessly into all places of society and not to hide away from the areas that are too political or too cultural. But he believed firmly that Christianity reaches all of those, and most importantly, to the issues and topics that Christians aren't supposed to talk into. He believed that Christianity was the conscience of the state. And so I believe that his impact on the American church was so profound, so convicting for so many to be bold and be courageous as Christians, that that legacy may be the most important that Charlie Kirk left. I do believe that his loss is massive for the American church because his impact was so important on the American church and on Christianity today. His voice cut through the noise, the chaos, the lies. He inspired millions, especially young people, especially young men, to seek truth and live with courage. His legacy is one of unrelenting conviction, and his loss is a devastating blow to the church, to conservatism, and to America. As of today, September 11th, 2025, the investigation is ongoing. The details are still emerging, but here's what we know. As of now, the shooter remains at large. The FBI is leading a manhunt alongside Utah authorities and the Secret Service. Yesterday, 2 individuals were briefly detained but released without charges. A college-aged person of interest was taken into custody last night, but then Director Kash Patel announced on social media that they were released after further investigation. Authorities have recovered a high-powered rifle in a wooded area near the center where the shooting took place, along with ammunition that is engraved. Now, it's important to note that Steven Crowder actually reported on this early this morning, and a lot of people, don't like Steven Crowder, but he is right a lot and has a reputation to support a lot of the reports that he makes. He reported 7 hours ago that this morning his team had received an email from an officer at ATF. The email included a screenshot from what appears to be an internal message describing a weapon and cartridges located by an ATF and other law enforcement near the scene of the Charlie Kirk shooting at Utah Valley State University. Now, in this, what Steve Crowder shared, it's important to note that the FBI has and authorities have confirmed that much of his report was accurate, but they left out one of the important details, which Steven Crowder reported on, that the ammunition was engraved with transgender and anti-fascist ideology. So we'll see where that goes. But as of now, that has not been confirmed yet. It was reported by Steven Crowder, but has not been confirmed by the authorities yet. And there's video footage showing a figure in dark clothing fleeing the rooftop immediately following the shot. And the FBI's Salt Lake City field office has urged the public to come forward with any information, providing a tip line. And if any of you have any tips, it's 1-800-CALL-FBI. I will drop information below as well. And then today, Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to Salt Lake City to accompany Charlie's body back to his hometown in Arizona aboard Air Force Two. Reports are that Charlie's wife, Erica, and their 2 young children, along with close friends, will join the journey to Phoenix. This is a turning point for America. His life and his death amplify the message that violence thrives when words are silenced. And Charlie repeatedly warned of this. That's why he was so passionate about public discourse and about going into the enemy's fray with words. He knew that words was a weapon for good and that free speech matters. And that's why he kept going in and kept going back again and again and again. He was so brave. And his wife, Erica, was so brave for supporting him in this mission. I think he was one of the most brave men of our generation. He said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. When people stop talking, that's when civil war happens. He inspired a generation to embrace truth, to reject fear, and to stand firm in their beliefs. His work to build Turning Point USA sparked a movement among young Americans, my kids included. And his unapologetic faith challenged the church to be bold. So today, we mourn the loss of an unmatched hero of our generation. Erica's husband, his sweet children's father, a friend to so many. And we also honor what his challenge always was, for us to pick up the torch and to carry it into the dark night and to not be shy to not cower, and to certainly not be silenced. So, in this moment, I would encourage you to pray for Erica and for their children, for the Turning Point staff, for those who witnessed the horror, and for justice to be served swiftly. And also pray for all the children who looked up to Charlie, for our nation to reject evil and lies, and for a revival that will lead us back to our Christian heritage. I wanted to leave you with something that Pastor Costi Hinn put out that I thought was really helpful in all of this. It's 5 truths that we must hold to when the wicked attack. Number 1, evil will not silence truth. Violence cannot stop God's purposes. Jesus said, I will build my church and the gates of Hades will not prevail. Bullets cannot silence the gospel. Stand firm. Number 2, life is fragile. Eternity is forever. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed, so we must live all out for Christ today. It is appointed for men to die once, and after this comes judgment. Live ready. Live like eternity matters. 3, Christians cannot cower. Darkness will not drive us into hiding. To live is Christ, and to die is gain. Philippians 1:21. Whether in life or death, Christ is magnified, so speak truth with boldness. 4, pray with faith and stand with courage. Christians don't wring their hands, they lift them in prayer. The righteous are bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. Now is the time for prayer, courage, and uncompromising truth. 5, do not become the evil you seek to eradicate. Jesus repeatedly warned against using evil and sinful tactics to eradicate evil and sinful men. In our war against the wicked, we must still reflect Christ. 1 Peter 3:9. And lastly, I am reminded of the words of C.S. Lewis, courage, dear heart. Charlie's life was a testament to that courage, and his death must not silence it. So I encourage you to commit to carrying his mission forward, to speak truth, to foster dialogue, and to stand firm in the faith. And if you don't know Jesus as Savior, I would encourage you to pick up a Bible, read through John. It's in the New Testament. It's like midway through the Bible and a little further than that. The kingdom that Christ came and built is so good. It's so true. And it's eternal. And we get to put our hope, like Charlie did, into that eternity, that there is life beyond the grave, that truth is worth fighting for, and that we are heirs to a much, much better kingdom than this. And to Charlie's sweet family, to his team, and to the millions he inspired, we grieve with you. We pray for you, and we promise to keep his legacy alive. We will continue to bring you updates as this story unfolds. Make sure you're following on our social media, Rooted Wings. Everything will be linked below. And until then, let's hold fast to hope, to truth, and to each other. So hug your kids extra tight tonight. And please pray for Erica and for her sweet children. And may we live boldly with courage in truth.